Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about two priorities in running training so that you can become a faster runner: consistency and varying your intensity. Alrighty, so the first thing we're going to elaborate on is consistency. Consistency is an interesting one. A lot of people talk about it and it's the first tip that a lot of professionals give. But essentially what it means for me is that you're not having sudden spikes in your load and sudden deloads, because your body doesn't actually like that. From like an injury prevention standpoint, it's not that good. And also when you're trying to layer on fitness week on week, it's not great if you have that intermittent deload and then a huge spike to come back just because you want to get back into it too quickly. So we need to have a little bit more flow in our training and maintain a good amount of mileage for a consistent amount of time over the long term. So it's important to remember that bones, ligaments, tendons and muscles don't like that sudden spike and sudden deload, because of the fact that your muscles are going to lose its eccentric capacity. Your tendons are going to be a little less stiff because you want that sweet spot of tendon stiffness to be able to efficiently actually get good energy return back, especially in the Achilles. That's responsible for a lot of the energy return. And same with the bone. Your bone loading tolerance decreases if you don't run frequently and give it that stimulus that it needs to know that it needs to maintain that bone density and stuff. And sure, bone density doesn't decrease just from taking a week off. It might a tiny bit, but in general, if we're talking about like bone cross-sectional area and other characteristics of the bone, that can change quite quickly, even if bone density doesn't immediately change. That's why it's really important to make sure that we're giving it that frequency of running. So that's why when someone's new to running, I actually try and get them to do 4 to 5 runs a week as soon as possible, ideally. Even if the runs aren't long, if they do a ton of short runs, they're getting used to that repeated cycle of running, and that builds that adherence and also tolerance to that load over time. So using Rad to Japan as an example, he obviously loves running his trademark 250k weeks, sometimes does more now as well. And he's so used to doing that amount of load that suddenly doing no load and having a day off is actually pretty detrimental and also a high risk of injury for him. So when he says that not running gets him in the danger zone, it actually is kind of factual information. He's not actually joking. So I always think that that's super interesting, and not many people know about that. So if you are used to a certain amount of load, try and maintain that for a long period of time. Now, if we take the example of someone that takes a week off because of, uncontrollable factors, like they were just really busy at work and they had to skip a week of running. It's really easy to want to go straight back to full training, but the thing is, your cardiorespiratory system and fitness doesn't go down as quick as your musculoskeletal fitness. So I was injured for 3 weeks recently. I couldn't run because I got bone bruising on my knee. Every other part of my leg was obviously fine. And unfortunately, because I couldn't run because of that one area that hurt, I took 3 weeks off and my musculoskeletal conditioning went down a lot. But obviously, my cardiorespiratory system was still pretty fit. I got almost 5,000 kilometers under my belt from this year. That base doesn't go down that quickly, but if I don't give it that repetitive stimulus, like I was talking about earlier, I'm gonna lose that mechanical tolerance, and therefore I have to take it chill and gradually build back up when I'm coming back to running. It's really tempting to go straight back into the same mileage that you were doing at the same intensity as well, but it's actually pretty dangerous to do that. So that's why you have to be a little more careful. It takes a bit more time for the musculoskeletal system to catch up, even though your cardiorespiratory system may maintain. So just to recap everything we've said in this video so far, essentially when you add a stimulus to your body knows that it has to adapt to be able to withstand that stimulus in the future. So it predicts that stress in the future, and then it does the right adaptation. This process is basically known as mechanotransduction. You add that mechanical stimulus, and then your body needs to adapt to that to be able to handle it in the future. It kind of anticipates that there's going to be more of this coming soon, and therefore it has to adapt. So that's the consistency part of the video over. Let's now talk about varying the intensity. And there's not a more appropriate location to talk about this than hitting the track to talk a bit about the benefits of different speeds and intensities. With better education now, we know that running slow isn't necessarily going to make you run fast. You actually have to hit different intensities to get the benefits from different intensities. I've already talked about this in past videos, but particular intensities don't restrict themselves to one type of adaptation. It's a broad continuum or spectrum, and every intensity might have a little bit of overlap to the intensity right above and below. So we don't want to fixate on specific stuff, but it's more that we want to hit a variety of intensities throughout the week, whatever we can tolerate, so that we can get the best of every type of intensity. So in the context of a professional runner, when we look at their year of training, we see that they're hitting a lot of different intensities throughout the entire year, apart from their 2 weeks of off season, which obviously is good for them to mentally reset and also physically reset as well, because they put a lot of load throughout their body for the whole year. I still don't recommend 2 weeks of complete deload. I think walking around a little bit here and there and also getting in like really short jogs will still be actually pretty good. But I think everyone will have a different opinion on that sort of thing. But either way, when we're looking at the rest of the year, even though you can't peak the whole year round, you can still maintain different intensities as well throughout, which means that even when you're not doing a VO2 max block or a speed development block, you can actually still maintain it by doing short workouts like 5x100 fairly hard and not doing like crazy 10x400 hard with a lot of recovery kind of thing, because that'll be more during your VO2 block or top end speed block, speed development block. But we still want to trickle in the other intensities so that we don't lose that fitness too much and maintain it a bit better. Because what we want to do is, even though we can't peak year round, we actually want to raise the floor. The better your fitness is at the bottom end, like your baseline level fitness, the fitter you are going to be in terms of potential, because you're starting off at a higher point compared to other people. So there's not as much to do when you want to peak. That's why I like the sort of training that I do. I don't do a ton of speed, but I trickle it in. So usually I'm about 8 weeks away from specific training to get specifically fit for a specific race. That's a lot of specifics. But the point is that I want to be generally fit across everything and be prepared to race anything in about 8 weeks. So that's what I usually aim for. I'm trying to raise that bottom level up, that baseline level of fitness, so that I can train for anything. And before we move on to the next section of this video, it's important to know that you can't really peak the whole year round, because it takes a lot of mental energy as well to like feel like you need to be in top shape the whole year round and go through all this hard training as well. It's not easy on the body either, so that's why sometimes it's all about just maintaining it and then having focus blocks where you are trying to improve it. But that doesn't mean you stop doing the speed completely. You still want to trickle it in, which is exactly what the pro runners do, and that's why they are able to maintain a lot of different stuff throughout different intensities for a long period of time. So the main point is, let's definitely have a distinction in our head in terms of maintaining certain intensities and also improving certain intensities, but you can still do everything year round, but at different doses, so that you're still roughly touching everything as frequently as possible and giving your body that stimulus. But obviously it comes with a caveat that we want to stay injury free as much as we can. So if your body can't tolerate that, you need to adapt that. And that's why you need to work closely with an individual coach that looks at your training holistically, has a bird's eye view, knows your running background, injury history, to make sure that you're doing this in the safest way possible. So now let's quickly elaborate more on what sort of benefits you get and physiological adaptations you get from each intensity. But again, remember that there's a little bit of overlap with the intensity above and below, so that's why it's good to have a variety. But essentially for easier running, we're going to get that really good mitochondrial adaptation and also aerobic base building. We talked about in a video in the past that there's peripheral and central adaptations, which we'll get onto a bit more as we go up the intensities. But aerobic is a bit more peripheral, so you're going to get that capillarization as well. More stuff to do with the muscles rather than the central adaptations, which is to do with the heart. So as we move up one intensity towards LT1 or aerobic threshold, we're having that slight increase in intensity where we get a little more lactate buffering benefits, but still not a lot of lactate buffering because that's more LT2. But we have that sweet spot in between of base building and also LT2. So we're stretching that aerobic system a bit more. So we might trigger a little bit more mitochondrial density and also even more capillarization compared to the easy running, which is why it's important to remember that running zone 1 all the time is actually not good. And I actually made the big mistake of doing this for like a couple years, going to so many social run clubs and actually not running that much zone 2. I do so much running at 6 minutes per K and my heart rate is like probably extremely low and I'm not getting that zone 2 benefit. Zone 2 running for an experienced runner is actually pretty quick and also mechanically stimulating and fatiguing. So it's not necessarily super easy on the ligaments, tendons and muscles, which is why I want to be doing that more frequently as well. So I'm going to start doing more faster zone 2 stuff rather than just zone 1. Moving on to more LT2, we get that lactate buffering benefit. And also if we break it up into threshold intervals like I do on the track a lot, 16x400, 20x400, we're able to run quite quick at threshold without overcooking it. So you get that mechanical, biomechanical stimulus and efficiency. So you get that running economy benefit, but also lactate buffering. But again, threshold is still very aerobic, so we're still getting that mitochondrial density, capillarization, but at the same time, it's a bit higher intensity than the LT1. So now we're getting that stroke volume, cardiac output, and that heart muscle strength. and contractility. So we're starting to work a lot of different stuff with threshold, and that's why threshold is like a pretty key part where you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. But again, if you go on either end of that, you get more specific with the stimulus. So there's still a time and place for every type of intensity. But as we move on more to the faster end of things, so VO2 and top end speed, we're looking at more motor unit recruitment, neuromuscular efficiency, running economy, because if you're running with better form, you're going to be more efficient at all the slower paces as well. If I'm really efficient at 3 minutes per K, my 4 minutes per K will be very efficient, and so will my 5 minutes per K. So it all kind of trickles down, and that's why it's important to do your top end speed work as well and not neglect it, which is again something else I've been doing in the past. And yeah, like I said, as we move to the higher intensity of the spectrum, we're stressing our heart and lungs a bit more, so ventilatory, cardiorespiratory stimulus, and that's why we call that central adaptation. We need more oxygen to be delivered to the muscles, so we actually need the heart to be pumping better and more efficiently, and that's why that's important. Whereas in the lower intensities, we already have enough oxygen being delivered to the muscles. It's all about how can we improve that, transmission or diffusion of oxygen towards the muscles to the end tissue. So that's why it's more to do with capillarization, mitochondrial density, all the stuff to do with the muscle. And finally, I thought I'd also mention that tendon stiffness and plyometric capability and stretch shortening cycle ability will also improve with the faster stuff, whereas that's not really going to improve with the slower stuff. But doing specific plyometric work will also obviously help with that too. So that's something to consider. Apart from that, that's the end of the video. I talked about consistency and also hitting different intensities. I'd say those two are the key factors that will help you becoming a better runner. Obviously, running is really complicated. There's more nuance to that. But if I had to prioritize two things, it would be to not have sudden spikes, sudden deloads, and also try and hit different intensities. Now, as always, thank you so much for watching this video. Please leave a like and comment below what you want me to make a video on next, and I'll try and work on that very soon. Also, as always, I wanted to shout out my Buy Me a Coffee donors. So firstly, we have an anonymous donor who said, thank you for the detailed and insightful information. So yeah, thank you so much. That's really appreciated. And then our second donor, we have Boiser. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, but he said, thank you for creating this content and sharing your experience. But yeah, I really appreciate all of you that watch the videos as well. So yeah, this is all for you guys. I just want to spread good content, good information. And then we also have at DNNSN, who didn't mention anything, but he donated. So again, thank you so much. And we have Matthew Carpenter. Thank you for all your content. Again, thank you so much. I really appreciate the coffee donation. We've also got Can W. Thanks for all your content. I'm a new subscriber, and honestly, it's a crime that your stuff is free. Keep going. Really appreciate it, guys. Like, this honestly means a lot. Again, thank you to all of you that donated. If you do have the financial means to support Buy Me a Coffee, you can donate anything from $5, and it really means a lot. And I'll shout you out in the next video. And also, just a quick note to say that I have more merchandise coming up. And also, my code Sota for Bix Nutrition gets you 20% off, and that gives me a tiny bit of a kickback as well. So that's other ways to support the channel if you want. Make sure to just keep sharing the videos with your friends if you know anyone that's looking to improve their running, because that also does help in the long run as well. I just want to keep growing the channel and yeah, building that nice community here on YouTube. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.